In this video, we will see why travel platforms are likely not the best for Asia, being, let's say, local. Because, for example, Trip and Agoda are mainly Asian platforms, but they probably aren't the best option for travel within Asia, for example, from China to Japan, from China to Pakistan, and so on. But there are also foreign platforms, for example, Booking, which can be a great alternative. Finally, before starting this video, I will compare each of these platforms by showing their different aspects, and at the end, I will give you a brief review or comparison so you know which platform is better and in what aspect. The first thing we will do is look at trip.com, and for this, right here on the main page, we see that different offers appear immediately. It says that if we are new users, we have access to these discounts, which is a 10% discount on hotels and homes. Remember, it is not just hotels, it is also homes. Remember, 10% might not seem like much, but if you stay, for example, I don't know, 7 or 10 days in Japan, let's say, and the total rental price is $2,500, you would be saving $250. And you can use those $250 for food, transportation, or simply toys, or whatever you find in Japan or at your destination. Then, here we have a 5% discount in the United States, but for trains. Here, we also have 5% off on attractions and more. More options, for example, 10% off airport transport, since sometimes it is not that easy to get to an airport. And, well, you keep scrolling down. Here, we have several places that can be very interesting. For example, as we scroll down here, we have Shanghai, and it even shows us recommendations and photos of what the place is like to make us want to go even more. And also, remember, it has an app on both the App Store and the Google Store. Now, let's quickly look at a destination. For example, this one, Shanghai. I'll click on it. Remember, we are directly on the Trip.com platform. And here, we see several posts about this accommodation or this place. Here, we see photos of the food, pictures of people, and other little things. It is quite good. Remember, this is a type of blog. It is quite interesting. Here, we continue with the blog. For example, the places we can go appear. They can be very curious, very entertaining, and so on. And now, we are going to do a quick comparison. Let's go directly to trip.com, and here, we will simply type the word Tokyo so we can see how much it charges us. I will leave it from the 1st to the 5th. There we go. That is 4 nights, and I will just assume I am traveling alone. I will click Done and let us search. Also keep in mind that sometimes, if for example, you have a partner, it is very interesting to go, alone. I mean, you and your partner, since as there are 2 of you and you will sleep together, well, let's say the trip will be cheaper if you split the expenses. So, that is a little tip I give. I will click Done and let us see what comes up. Remember, there are hotels, trips, trains, car services, attractions, tours here. I mean, there is practically everything a tourist needs. Here is the price. Remember, this price is for 1 night. We are comparing 4 nights, but it is still quite cheap, honestly. I mean, it does not seem that expensive for Tokyo. Obviously, there are much more expensive places, others cheaper, and so on. We have different options, and remember, on these types of platforms, there are special discounts for the platform that do not appear on others. There it is. And remember, you can also select different trips with different airlines. Now, we move on to Agoda, and in this case, there is a bit more simplicity in their app. Actually, we might even get a 10% discount, but we have to scan this QR code. You can also see hotels, houses, apartments, long stays, and airport transport. It is very interesting. It is practically the same as the others, except we do not have as many comparison benefits as Booking with its Genius membership or Trip with its coins. Remember, the more you travel, in this case with Trip, the more benefits you get, so your next trip is cheaper. So we will just do the same thing here. We are going to type the magic word Tokyo. There it is. It will be exactly the same here, so there is no difference at all. I have it there. There it is. And I will leave it at 2 adults. I will hit search. Here, we have it, and we see that the prices are a bit different. In fact, some slightly cheaper options appear. For example, this one, $78, is quite good, $407, $108, and so on, $86, $81. As you scroll down, there are different costs, and so on. We also have these types of capsule hotels, which can be uncomfortable or very comfortable. And remember, again, it is very important that you book a bit in advance. For example, I am making the reservation for something very quick, but I recommend that you book at least a month before so that it ends up being even cheaper. Also, here we see that only one lodging remains at this price, so be very careful. Here, we have the difference in costs. It is very, very similar. And finally, we will move on to Booking. Now, we are going to look at Booking. There it is. We have it. Remember, here on Booking, we have something very, very, very interesting, since just by registering, you enter a type of membership. The membership is called Genius. With this membership, you get certain discounts the more you travel, but just by signing up, you practically get a 10% discount on everything the platform has. Later, the more you travel, I believe you have to be active for about 2 or 3 years, and so on. So, if you are a very frequent traveler, Booking is better for you since, in the long run, it gives you better discounts. Here, we see that Tokyo also appears. The dates are exactly the same, and here, I will just change it to 2 adults. More options appear here, but they might be more expensive or they might be cheaper. For example, here we have the APA Hotel, and I remember having stayed here. Here it is. For example, we will click on it. I think it is the same one. It seems like it is. There it is. Let's look here on trip.com. Here it is. I remember I had seen the APA Hotel here. If not, that's okay. Actually, I can still look for more alternatives here. If I go by name, then here we have different options to search, or we can search again here to see what comes up and so on. And it seems it doesn't have a custom search here. It's quite curious, but well, it should be in the top results since it starts with A. So I'll quickly search for it on the 3 platforms. In the case of trip.com, unfortunately, the same hotel is not there. It is quite strange, since usually almost all hotels are on every platform, but here there is a small exception, though I can look for other hotels. Now, let us quickly compare the prices for these trips. For example, here we see the different features of a room and so on. Remember, this price is per night. It is not the total. Now, we go to, the Booking platform, and here the price is $518 for the entire stay, which is pretty good, but there might be an even better price. In fact, it's telling us there that each night costs $144, which might be a bit more expensive. In this case, if we multiply 90 by 4, it gives 360, and 4 by 4 is 16. So, for $376, we have the same hotel in the same area. Remember, here we are comparing with Agoda. And, well, to wrap up this tutorial, remember, in all three, customer service is practically a 10 out of 10. There may be cases where Trip wins, cases where Agoda wins, or cases where Booking wins, but in general, we have very good customer service, which is a very good thing. Now, I am going to make a small recommendation here, since, as I had said, each platform works differently. Now, the verdict for Trip.com is that this type of platform has the best prices for destinations in China. For example, it is very good for trips in China and practically any type of Asian train. Besides, we see that it holds up quite well regarding prices within, Asia, technically. Now, we move on to the next one, which is Agoda. And here we have something very interesting, since its price, as we have seen, is a bit more affordable, and besides, for Southeast Asia and all that, it will technically give you the best prices. For other places, unfortunately, it does not have the best prices, but for Southeast Asia, it is a very important option to consider. Now, finally, we will move on to Booking.com. And here, we have something very interesting. Since Booking is technically very old, it is already established and so on. So, the ease it gives you to plan a trip, plus its membership and such, let's say the services, surpass those of the others. Also, the more you travel, the better the price will be. So, Booking is much easier to use. It is more designed for families, while the others are a bit more for adventurous people. And remember, these two will work best within the Asian continent. And, well, that would be all for this video.